Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is another podcast where I talk to people that I like to talk to. And this guy here is one of my favorite MPs. I've said it very clearly. His name is YB Ong Kian, Dr.
Right.
Ong YB. Hello, everybody.
Dr.
Thank you so
Ong
much
Kian Ming.
for tuning in.
You can't get my
This
name
is
right.
another podcast where I talk to people that I like to talk to. And this guy here is one of my favorite MPs. I've said it very clearly. Hold on. There's some audio issues. Okay. Alright, sorry. Yes, one of my favorite MPs, YB Dr. Ong Kian Ming. How are you, sir? How are you coping during this pandemic?
I'm good. Got a couple of balls to juggle. So, not yours lah, not yours.
Why you have to open with juggling balls?
Yeah,
Why?
because,
Why you gotta go there?
Because of you, and then I'm thinking of Douglas Lim and all these jokers out there. So, yeah.
Well,
I'm not thinking about the health minister.
Well, it's the thing about comedians and the politicians now is like, I always say this, people always think that, they always ask, oh, Jason, the politicians are funnier, comedians cannot cari makan. I'm like, we're very different. Comedians have punchlines, politicians have a line of people waiting to punch them, right? So it's very different, very different, okay? But of course, I don't mean all politicians, it's a very binary thing. I don't think it's binary, Some people like yourself are doing some actual work. And speaking about work, you are now the Selangor coordinator for Operation Surge Capacity. And I believe it starts next Monday, correct me, next Monday, right?
Yes, correct. Next Monday, 26th of July.
Right, and so how is preparations going? How do you feel about any optimism about this operation? Because I am very hopeful that this actually succeeds.
Okay, just to give a bit of background, the intention of this Operation Surge Capacity that was announced by the minister, in charge of vaccination, YB Khairi Jamaluddin, together with support from the MD of Selangor, Dr. Sri Amiruddin Shari, is basically to get every single adult in Selangor, with at least one vaccine shot by the 1st of August.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think many people think, hey, is that impressive or not? I think it's pretty impressive because it means that you have to vaccinate 1.3 million people thereabouts in a span of 1 week, and this is only for dose 1. At the same time, there'll be another 900,000 or so people who will be vaccinated with dose 2 during this time. So that means we would reach almost 40%. I just did some rough calculations just now. Almost 40% of the Selangor population would be fully vaccinated. Klang Valley, plus KL and Putrajaya as well.
Okay. So, and what are the steps taken, just briefly, what are the steps taken to, for lack of better words, surge this capacity? More PPVs being opened up, people working, the healthcare workers working longer hours to jab people. What are the steps actually?
So more PPVs will be opened up. According to the latest briefing that I saw just now, about 15 PPVs will be opened up next Monday. And this would include some PPVs that are specifically for industry. Right, so this is a program that's run under PICAS, which is under the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, my former ministry. Give it up for MITI. They've been dragged through the mud these couple of months, but good people there. They're trying their best. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, we didn't drag the ministry. We just dragged the minister. But no mind, go on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe not me. Others out there, I think they don't really need me to contribute to the effort. Yeah. So it's longer working hours, not yet. But it's not just MITI. It's not just the Selangor State Government, which has a program called Selvax Industry that will be helping vaccinate industry at the same time. There's also other ministries involved. The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, they'll be vaccinating some of the workers at the shopping malls. This Ministry of Works, they will continue vaccinating people from the construction sector.
Okay.
And Ministry of Agriculture, they have some vaccination plans as well. But because in Selangor, not that many people in the agriculture sector, right? So this is more maybe outside in Perak, and then so the Ministry of Transportation, they'll be doing vaccination of these port workers, some rail workers, some people doing e-hailing, for those who haven't gotten appointments yet. So so in total, I think it's all being set up, and from what I've been told, probably by tomorrow Friday midnight, most of the notifications via MySejahtera and Sri Lanka will be pushed out there already.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow by midnight lah. If all goes well, there's no hiccups and whatnot. So by Saturday, if you are 18 and over in the Klang Valley, you should have gotten some sort of notification either through MySejahtera or through PIKAS, your employer, that you have been assigned your first shot location.
All right. Okay. This is an important update. I wasn't aware of this. So by tomorrow, midnight means between Saturday night and Sunday morning, most residents of Selangor.
No, Saturday night, Friday night and Saturday morning. Today is Thursday.
My God, today's. Sorry, I've lost track of the days. Okay, so Friday midnight, between Friday night and Saturday morning, most of Selangor residents above 18 would have received some sort of notification for the first dose of their vaccination.
Yeah, for those who haven't gotten any notification yet.
All right, that's damn awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the update. So I am living in Selangor and born and bred here my whole life, and I am happy that we have ops surge capacity. And remember also the first AZ rollout was also for Klang Valley only. So there's a bit of a danger where I worry about other states hating on Selangor, having that Selangor envy, like, just because you're in Selangor you get the vaccine first. Are there any efforts to, after this, do it for other states as well, other surge capacities in other states?
Yeah, so I think the reason behind having the operation surge capacity in the Klang Valley is because half or more than half of the cases currently are in the Klang Valley, right? So if we handle the Klang Valley situation well, then the overall number of cases will drop sometime in August, and then more importantly, the number of deaths and then the capacity will also drop. The ICU capacity will also be freed up, right? So that's the rationale. And if you think about it, right, the registered population in Klang Valley, according to the latest population estimates that I downloaded 2 days ago, is somewhere in the region of 8.3, 8.4 million, right?
Okay.
There's also undocumented people in the Klang Valley Islands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? And they could number anywhere between 1 to 2 million, right? So you are talking about an area with about almost 10 million residents,
Okay.
So 10 million residents, that's about a third of the country and about half of the economy.
I see.
Right. So I think we need to keep that in mind. But of course, that being said, you're right. Other states may find that how come Selangor and KL are grabbing all the vaccines in the short term? I do believe that there is a good rationale to again push it to other states in the near future. But of course, this is the prerogative of the minister in charge of vaccination, Wabi Khairi.
Okay. Also, it may not be very fair to ask you this question, but I'm just curious. Now, recently there's been a lot of talk about the when people go to get vaccinated and they show videos of them not being jabbed or jabbed with an empty syringe, and then there are investigations going on. I mean, you are closer to the situation, I suppose. Like, what do you think of the whole issue, like people not getting jabbed or people selling vaccines on the side? What are your thoughts?
I mean, you think about it, there have been about 50 million shots administered. This is dose 1 and dose 2, right? About 10 million dose 1, 2 million dose 2. And in that context, wouldn't you expect there to be some cases of things that don't go according to plan? That there will be some bad apples, right? But in the larger context of the number of jabs that have been administered, right, I think the reports coming out is actually quite low, right? It's a very small minority. I mean, like when you went to get your jab at was it the UM or WTC?
KL WTC.
KLWTC, right? I mean, how was your experience like?
It's absolutely excellent.
Maybe you have to wait a while outside, but once you got inside, it was okay, right?
Yeah. So I get what you're trying to say. I mean, like my first experience, I had to wait, but then once I get in, it was all smooth sailing. Second experience, I didn't even have to wait. The moment I got off my Grab, I just walked. There was no time for me to stop also, because they just kept funneling me, and then I arrived at the consultation. I think that you put it in a very good context, like, definitely in the grand scheme of things, what there may be one or two bad apples, but I would also argue that when you as the healthcare worker, you jab hundreds a day with not enough rest. Sometimes you make mistakes,
Sure.
yeah. So
yeah, no, I mean, and I think in those cases you have to investigate, and then you have to rectify the issue, right? I think this is the wonderful thing about Malaysia, in the sense that when the nation is in a crisis, and we have the right people leading such initiatives, people actually band together. The healthcare workers, the volunteers, the private sector, in terms of doctors and nurses coming in. So by and large, I think despite the ill effects of this virus and some of the political instability in this country, I think we have done pretty well, from a vaccination standpoint.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we had problems with the vaccine supply in the beginning, and then because due to rich countries hoarding, and once we got it, we hit the ground running. So yeah, I just
want to remind you about this. I don't know whether you remember. Kyrie initially said, would ramp up to a daily capacity of about 150,000.
Yes.
Right, and then some people criticize him, saying that, we, so long, so we haven't reached that stage, blah blah blah. Can we actually deliver, right? But now, what is our daily capacity? Is about 400,000, and we'll probably reach 500,000 next week because of this Operation Surge Capacity, right?
Yeah.
So it's credit to the whole team that's been working on this day and night.
Yeah. Okay. There's an interesting question on YouTube by Melvin Daniel Fong. I mean, I'll normally feel the questions at the end, but this is pretty interesting, and we just talked about this just now. Hi YB. If people who got vaccinated, I mean, this is inverted commas lah, okay, but then went for a blood test and showed no antibodies for whatever reason, meaning like, hey, obviously the jab wasn't working, can this person get the vaccine again? Could this be part of the plan in the future? Like, okay, to investigate the blank jabs. If someone gets a test, no antibodies, re-jab again.
Okay, this is not me speaking on behalf of this Operation Surge Capacity. Right? This is me just speaking, as in my capacity as an MP, as a public policy maker. I think in those cases we probably need to have some sort of investigation. Because they have all the batch numbers. Right? And it's a larger issue than just one person not getting the antibodies, right? Was there a case of, defective, defective vaccines in that particular batch, right? So not only do we have to investigate that one particular person, we probably have to identify the batch number. Let's say Pfizer, right? We have to identify those who are, the other 5 people that got the shot from the same vial, right? Because Pfizer, they're divided into 6, right? So one vial is divided into 6 shots, right? So it's a larger question that needs to be looked at quite carefully, and we need to get the medical experts in to do the proper follow-up.
Yeah. And then also, like, what's the I'm again, just from my background a little bit, I think it also depends on what day after the jab that they go for the test, right? Because like if you go for the first day after the jab, unlikely to have antibodies because it take time, 2 weeks after the first jab. Yeah, so it's quite I agree, it's not a simple question lah.
And also I think the larger question also should be raised by those people who are more familiar from a medical standpoint. Are antibody tests or serology tests the gold standard? Is it approved by WHO?
Exactly.
Is that a very firm indication of your resistance towards this COVID and all that kind of stuff? So I think all this also needs to be taken into account.
Yeah, because there'll be a big problem where, like, if suddenly there's this particular test but it's not proven, and then this test reveals everyone, even regardless whether you actually have the antibodies, is negative for the antibodies, then there's a panic. Then after people don't don't want to take vaccine or want to get jabbed the third time. Yeah. I really celebrated this, you being appointed, of course, was one of the reasons I really celebrated it, because this again is another example of bipartisanship between, across the aisle, let's just say. And I think this was seeded early on when YB Kyrie had dialogues with, I think, yourself, Lim Guan Eng, and Kelvin Yee, right?
And also Stephen Sim,
Stephen Sim, yes. And then politics later, pandemic first, whatever. So how do you feel about this bipartisanship? Like, are the DAP members or your political party members, are they more comfortable with, hey, one of our boys working with UMNO? How do you feel about that?
I don't really see this as DAP working with UMNO.
Nice.
Although some people may interpret it that way, I see it as myself with an interest and also some experience, in terms of coordinating PPVs on the ground, and some background in terms of dealing with industry, coming together with a minister whom I think is very open-minded and very capable, to do something that is very necessary for the country at this point in time. I think many people are sick and tired of the political rhetoric in this country, a lot of finger pointing here and there. I'm glad that my Secretary General, Mr. Lim Guan Eng, gave his blessing, and he said, we should have more of these kinds of coordination efforts on a bipartisan basis, even in states like Penang and also Negeri Sembilan, where the opposition is in power at the state level.
Mm-hmm. And right now, I think not unfairly, YBKJ is one of the more popular politicians right now. I'm just curious, like, what's it like working with him? How is it like working with him behind the scenes?
He's a very demanding guy, and he knows his stuff. You have to be very careful in terms of the things that you say and present. But I think I also push myself quite a bit, in terms of trying to understand the stats, and to dig my brain and my fingers into the larger picture, the bigger picture. And more importantly, I think it's trying to appreciate the needs of the different stakeholders. And then, because you have, the industry, you have, people who are saying, oh, I don't want foreign workers to be vaccinated at the same place as me, So just trying to understand the entire ecosystem, and then to filter some of these thoughts, give some feedback to YB Kyrie, and then also maybe to try to explain to the larger public some of the thinking and the rationale behind some of the decisions that are made, in the CITF, the COVID Immunization Task Force, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I mean, just let me give you an example.
Okay, yes, please.
If let's say you go to the vaccination center, and then you see a group of foreign workers lining up at the same vaccination center, would you feel uncomfortable?
Food for thought, definitely.
Why would you feel uncomfortable?
Because I know that they have not been given equal access to healthcare, and therefore I might feel that they are the ones who, they may contract COVID easier than me. But, I suppose if I jaga diri, lindung diri, then I shouldn't feel uncomfortable lah. But I take, I'm not going to be a saint and say, oh, I will not feel uncomfortable. Of course, I will feel a bit uncomfortable. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the reason why we need to have a decisive decision making, and do the right thing instead of sometimes trying to pander to some of these fears, a lot of which are unwarranted. Mm-hmm. Like I give you an example. A lot of people think of these kilang clusters, right? And then they immediately think we need to shut down the bloody factories, stop the spread of the virus, right? A couple of misconceptions lah. Firstly, people think that it's the foreign workers that give the locals the virus. Would you believe me if I tell you that most of the time it's the other way around? It's the locals that give the foreign workers the virus?
No, I mean...
You know why not?
Okay, why?
Because for a lot of these foreign workers living in the factories, right? Working at the factories, their employers, rightly or wrongly, probably more wrongly, the employers have basically locked them out in the factory for the past 1.5 years, right? So they stay in the factory, they live in the factory, they eat in the factory. They have very little interaction with the outside world. So they, because the employees are scared that they will contract COVID and pass it around. But the employers cannot control what their own employees who are Malaysians do. So they go out, they jalan sini, they jalan sana. I don't know whether they go to karaoke or not, right? And then they get the COVID, especially when it's already in the community like what it is now. And then they bring it back, and then it's not the foreign workers' fault because they live in cramped quarters. They are, in the factory area or in their low-cost apartments. One gets it spreads like wildfire in those places. Yeah, and what happens if you lock down the factories, you shut down the factories, they will stay in their accommodation areas, they are cramped. If they stay in the flats, they will circulate even more, asking people for food, they may cook together and things like that because times are tough. And then you actually increase the circulation of the virus among these vulnerable groups. Right? So the right thing to do is actually to get them vaccinated at the same rate as the Malaysian population, the resident population.
Yeah, I think that's again another great point. I'll repeat it again so that people here know. It's usually the other way around. We are afraid of the foreign workers giving us COVID, but usually it's the Malaysian employees at the kilangs who will give them the COVID because they themselves, the foreign workers, have been for lack of a better word, imprisoned in the kilangs for a better part of the year. And the Malaysians, of course, can go around, get COVID, and then transmit to them. That's a very good point. Very, very, very good point. I didn't think of it that way. But yes, I agree. We should vaccinate them. Get them. If they don't get vaccinated, we are not safer for it, lah.
But I mean, there are ways in which we can make it easier for everyone. So, for example, for the local employers, I think that there's this program that's run by ministry, my former ministry MITI, called PICAS, that's specifically for the manufacturing sector, right? So if let's say you want to, don't be so kiamsia, you pay the 90 ringgit administrative fee, and then you can send your workers, especially the foreign workers, to a dedicated location that's just for industry workers, manufacturing workers, and then you can control their entry and exit into the place. Whereas if let's say you go under the PIC program that's free, what will happen is that let's say if you have a group of 100 workers, they may not get the same appointment date, right? And then they suddenly go in drips and drabs, and then you will also don't know whether if they go out then they come back in again, will they do a detour and this and that, right? So just pay the 90 ringgit per person and then send them to these PICAS dedicated vaccination sites, and then then you can go in and out quicker, and then you don't maybe disturb the local population that much.
Again, every time I talk to you, it's always like a learning experience because I'll ask one simple question, hoping for a simple answer, and then you go, well, there are 5 ways to think about it, and 4 ways to improve, and then 3 ways. It's always great to listen to talk to someone with so much input. Recently, also another big issue which I see every day on Twitter. Every day for the past few months, whenever the KKM Twitter puts up the daily new cases, everything, some of the healthcare professionals outside of KKM will ask, hey, why aren't we testing more? Why aren't we conducting more tests? And worryingly also, the past few days we test more, the positive rates increase. Which means we're testing way less than what we need to test. Is there any way in your mind that we can increase the number of tests that we do?
Okay, so the percentage rate has stabilized more or less around 9 to 10%, 8 to 10%, depending on the number of tests that you do. Of course, during the Haji holidays, the number of tests went down. Which is one of the reasons why the percentage positive went up to about 12% a couple of days ago, right? So that it's important to understand why we want to push for more testing. Firstly, the more you test, definitely you'll find more positive cases because this thing is already in the community, right? But when you tell people and after you do the testing, people know that they are asymptomatic, but they have the COVID but no symptoms, then they won't go around to that as much. They at least they have a reason to tell their employers, hey, I cannot go to work, I got COVID, right? Sometimes if they don't have symptoms, they may still go to work, right? So that's an important reason why we need to do even more testing. Second reason why we need to do more testing is because even after the number of cases goes down, number of tests goes down, we are not moving to phase 2 and 3. We need to have a system in place whereby if, let's say, like in Australia, right, you find a few clusters here and there, then you do targeted testing, you ramp up the testing in the whole area, and then you basically try to find out who has gotten it, and then you ask these people to quarantine at home. It's just like having suddenly one group, one area where there are a lot of people getting chicken pox or getting fever or dengue, right? You need to basically tell them, except for the fact that when you get dengue, you know that you got dengue because you're having a bloody fever. This one, sometimes you don't even get the fever, right? So it's important to do more testing. I'm glad that KKM has finally come around to that. They can do even more, and I think the rationale of saving money on tests is long gone already, because every day you shut down the economy cost the government many more times than the number of the amount of money that you'll be spending on testing.
Yep. Also, I think this is an important question to address here. But from Elijah Dempsey on Facebook. Okay, now I know that the Sinovac vaccine is part of the KKM's portfolio, and she's asking, what's the point of giving people Sinovac which has extremely low efficacy? Is Sinovac effective against the Delta variant? Now, I know that the numbers are out, but maybe it helps coming from someone in leadership position as such as yourself.
Yeah, I think this one is again something that is a result of a lot of bias reporting that's out there, and sometimes I also get affected by it. Because the perception is that Western media is reporting lower efficacy rates for Sinovac. My sort of like a little bit more detailed analysis into this area is that the evidence probably shows that the variance of efficacy for Sinovac is higher than for Pfizer in the samples that they have tested, right? That doesn't mean that Sinovac is less efficacious compared to the other to Pfizer or AstraZeneca, right? And I think we go back to the original position, which is the best vaccine is the one that you have in your arm, right? So in Malaysia so far there's not been any evidence. Of course, we haven't done enough sampling at this point in time. There's not been that much evidence to say that one test is less efficacious compared to another, right? And in fact, so there have been reports, coming out, like I think last week, where the DG explained, actually, yes, there are healthcare workers that still get COVID positive, right? But the number of serious cases actually is very low. It's like, out of the total number of healthcare workers, it's like frontliners, like 2%, something like that, right? And you think about it, right? These are healthcare workers that are in the front line.
They see cases every day. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So most of them lah. So if let's say if it's just a normal Joe, then the percentage of people who get COVID who go into serious cases, 3, 4, 5 category, 3, 4, 5, is probably going to be less than the healthcare workers.
Exactly.
So I think that's good news moving ahead.
Yeah. I like what you said about how bias reporting. I think there's also, sensationalistic media reporting is really, really disastrous, and I see it now during this pandemic. Like recently, I think I saw a tweet, someone saying, the media reported like a state in US lah, starts with M, I think Missouri or Minnesota. 4,000 people who were vaccinated got COVID, even though they were fully vaxxed. 4,000 people. And then the report then says that the total amount of people vaccinated is 4 million.
Yeah.
And 4,000 people getting, it's like 0.00001%. And I think the report also said no one has died or whatever. So it's like, when you put the figure, 4,000 people got COVID even though they got vaccinated. People they get panic. But it's so we don't process big numbers, and that I think is the problem lah.
Okay, so let me give you an example of
Yes, sir. Please.
Wrongly reading the stats lah. You consider a country where 100% of the population is already vaccinated, right? Let's say you have 10 million people, right? And then suddenly you have COVID cases, let's say 1,000 COVID cases, right? And then the headline would read, 100% of people who got COVID are vaccinated, right? I mean, right? So then you say, oh, vaccination is no use because you still get COVID. I mean, walao,
Exactly.
Exactly. And then there was a story, I think, in Thailand, right? 600 healthcare workers got COVID, but they didn't report that it was like, out of 600,000 COVID workers who were vaccinated. So everything needs to be interpreted in terms of context, right?
Yeah. It reminds me of this story told by one of my heroes, Neil deGrasse Tyson. So there was a report in
Science-Man.
The Science-Man. There was a report in some newspaper, and it says that half our students, half of American students are performing below average. And everyone's like, oh, how can this be? And then Neil's like, that's what the average is. They'll be half below, half above, man.
Yeah. But the thing is, the funny thing would be that everyone thinks that they are the half that is performing above average.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
it's like you tell the MPs, half of the MPs are not performing. Then in the day one they say, it's okay lah, it's not me, I'm the half that's performing.
Yeah. It's true. And I just want to touch on this issue, like so lately also on social media, and I'm getting stories of usually, unfortunately, this is the boomer generation lah. The people who are older. We both of us are very young people, but
I'm a bit older than you lah.
No, you don't look it. Okay. Anyway, the people, the older generation, they are WhatsApping each other misinformation and fake news. Even my mom asked me, hey, is ivermectin safe to use, whatever. This whole issue about ivermectin, and they are stocking up. Their relatives from China are saying that this will really work, and all these problems. Like, how do we combat this? Are you facing this among your constituency or people you're close with?
Yeah, so I think there is a healthy disagreement and debate over these things like ivermectin and all that. But my reply would be, let's focus on what we know works, which is the vaccine. Right? So you go back to the vaccine and get it jabbed in as many arms as possible. And then the need to use ivermectin would be less because the number of serious cases would be not as high. But I tell you, even relatively educated people, the problem is that because now we are in a WhatsApp kind of generation, right? So sometimes I see these kind of things, right? It's like, lengthy report, got bold here, bold there, figures here and there, and then at the end it says Code Blue, right? So Code Blue is quite a reputable news site that does a lot of medical reporting, right? But I look at the content, right? Say this cannot be Code Blue kind of stuff. It's really sensationalist,
and the grammar is all out of place.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it can be quite well written.
Okay.
I click on the link, and then I go into the contents of the actual website itself, right? The report is totally different from what is reported in the WhatsApp message. And then at the end of the article, Code Blue will say that, this article has been used for viral purposes with the wrong content or something like that. Right? So, I have to tell my friends, hey, go and read the bloody thing.
Yeah. Even among relatively educated people. Weirdly enough, it is the educated people who are the most dangerous now because they have a bit of information. They don't have all the information, and then with a little bit of knowledge, they think they are PhDs in public health. Okay, there is an excellent question here on Facebook by Xavier T. Can we know what's the plan to get illegal migrants vaccinated? A true effective way. Your thoughts?
Okay, firstly, I'm moving away from the usage of this word illegal migrants for various reasons.
Okay.
I use undocumented migrants.
Okay.
The reason is because some of them may have entered into the country legally, and because of reason X, Y, and Z, employers mistreating them or whatever, they lose their legal status because their documents have expired, right?
I
So
see.
I prefer to call them undocumented migrants. And there are a few ways that different people have suggested to me would be good to reach out to them. So, for example, rather than asking them to go to the PPV, which is a bit dangerous in their minds, which is probably true, they may get arrested there, they may get arrested on the way. We actually should go to them. So, do mobile vaccination, go to the places where they stay. You work with community leaders, of which there are many. I've reached out to some of them through some of my friends at the International Office of Migration, which is a UN agency. So they know all these community leaders, and the community leaders are the ones that can start to convince them to do these kinds of mobile vaccination. But my I think recommendation would be to probably wait until the CanSino vaccine comes into the market, hopefully soon, within the next 1 or 2 months, because there's only one jab. For the 2 jabs one is sometimes maybe hard to get them for the second jab.
Right.
Yeah.
When is roughly? Do you know when the CanSino thing? When? You say you'll be fully approved.
It's already approved already. It's already approved by MPRA.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a matter of how fast they can ramp up their production, which is actually located not too far away from where I stay, TPM. And then to be able to fulfill their obligations of 3.5 million doses to the federal government. So that can be used for the undocumented migrant population in the urban areas, and also some of the places in Sabah where the vaccination rate is still relatively low.
You mean the rural areas where it's hard to reach them? So with one jab, you jab and then register later. Then we don't have to worry about them again, right?
Yeah, not necessarily only in the rural areas in Sabah. Sabah, there are a lot of undocumented migrants who live in the town area and nearby the town area as well.
Right. This is a question that I ask. I like to ask you, but I ask cautiously, knowing that yes, some people are privileged to be double vaxxed, and some people have registered, waiting. There are delays, whatnot. But I would like to ask this anyway, in the macro view of opening up the economy. Do you think there will be a time where we can loosen some restrictions, be it travel, cross-district, cross-state, interstate travel, or for people who are already double vaxxed?
Yeah, definitely. But before I go into the details of that, just like to make an announcement. I just got a WhatsApp. Today, the total administered vaccines, 504,000.
Yay!
So first dose, 333,000. Second dose, 170,000. So I think this is the first time that we've crossed the 500,000 mark.
504,000 504.
Yes, correct.
Well done.
16 million doses already been administered . So the challenge would be to how we can
keep this
increase
up
even further next week. Next week will be quite key .
I think,
coming back to your question.
Sorry, this is a good point again to give a shout out to everyone involved in the vaccination effort, from top to bottom, all the allied healthcare workers, the volunteers, everyone at the PPVs. Thank you so much for your contribution. 504, that is amazing. I didn't think we would reach this so early. 504,000 doses yesterday. That's amazing. Okay, anyway, so back to my...
This from the minister himself, so this is very valid information.
Oh, he
tweeted
He tweeted or he WhatsApp?
Just WhatsApp. Yeah.
So we got this before Twitter. Yes.
So I think since
hot scoop.
Here, I should.
Hot scoop.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you very much, Minister. Don't blame me for revealing this information, but this is good news. We need to share more of this good news during these times.
Okay, so just to remind people of the question I asked, will there be a point in time where we loosen restrictions for people who are double vaxxed?
Okay, so all these things should be by science and logic right? So unlike the way we close down the economy, I hope that the way we open up the economy will be based on scientific evidence and data-driven decisions . So I would say that for those who are fully vaccinated, the logic should be that you should slowly open up more and more activities for them, not just to privilege them, but also to give incentives for those who haven't been vaccinated. But I have a caveat here. I think it should only be done in places where the vaccine is readily available, right? So, for example, after, let's say, middle of August, when most people in the Klang Valley would be able to go and walk in for your first or hopefully a second dose,
Okay.
right? But for places like where, it's only 20, 30, 40% of the people that have been fully vaccinated and the supplies are still short, then it may be unfair for the government to say, oh, only those who have been double vaccinated in Perak can go and dine in. Then the others will be like, hey, I want to get double vaccinated. It's not, right? So we need to sort of like do that kind of, that kind of adjustment and that kind of rollout of these loosenings. But at the same time, there can be other things that can be done in order to open up the economy. So, for example, now we can go to the bookshop to buy books. We can go to the computer shop to buy printer cartridges. We can go and buy new mobile phones and get our old ones repaired if necessary. So, why shouldn't other shops in the shopping mall that are, let's say, non-dine-in, right? Your places selling shoes, places selling bags, places selling clothes. Why can't they be open? Right, so they should be allowed to be open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just put the proper SOPs inside. When did you hear that suddenly I went to Uniqlo, came out, I got COVID, and that became a COVID cluster. I mean, this it may happen, but the chances of it happening is actually quite low compared to other activities that you may do. So I think because of that, these kinds of things, we should allow these activities to open up lah. I mean, we went to watch a movie together, right? It's not as if we are having like a big debate inside the movie theater. We are seated apart, right? So we should allow the cinemas to open.
Yep. So I'm hoping that will happen in the future, of course. Like for me,
then comedy clubs, how you're there laughing and telling jokes. How?
Interesting question that you asked. So okay, just to roll back a bit, some of my friends in Singapore, they have opened up a little bit. So they've been planning stand-up comedy shows. So my friend Rishi, he is promoting a show in August in line with their Singapore National Day. And then what happened was the KTV cluster happened, and they had to enforce some SOPs. One of the SOPs was the comedians performing must wear a mask while performing. And Rishi had a thought about it, and then he decided, look, you can't ask a performer to perform stand-up comedy with the mask covering half his face, because that's the performance. You see, that's you go and watch the guy's face. It's not just listening to the jokes. You see the guy perform. And he asked me about my opinion. I said, you know what? It's like going to eat in a Michelin star restaurant, but you put the food up your ass. It's not going to work. So that being said, right now there's no live stand-up comedy shows. But I'm hoping that things reopen soon, because I predict that there will be a pent-up demand for live events and live performances, and just to have a shared experience. Humans are social creatures, so I have a feeling that when Selangor gets more people get vaccinated, we may have live events again. And I'm hoping Penang also, selfishly of course, Penang's my second favorite city, so I hope they too get their vax. And then but my one concern is, and I don't know if you can elaborate on this, like right now, if let's say I were to go and to perform in America, I can go in without vaccination or even without a positive test. I can go there, I can perform, but when I come back, I think I have to quarantine for 3 weeks. And so it may not be worth it to go out.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
So it may not be worth it to go out and come back and then get blocked in prison for 2 weeks without being able to work and perform again. So I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe double vax individuals can, I don't know, with a negative test, can escape quarantine or a shortened quarantine stay. I don't know. Do you think this is responsible or feasible?
Yes, I think this should be the way to go, because right now, if you were to apply to go to the US, saying that you want to perform comedy there, I think they will reject your application.
Right, because
You can't leave the country for I mean, you may appeal lah, I'm leaving country for work and all that, but you're like, oh, you nak pergi luar negara buat apa? Oh, you comedian lah. Ni bukan
tak boleh.
kerja.
Ini tak essential. This is essential. Yeah. Not essential.
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 Douglas Tim would say.
Essential.
But I mean, it's this is a good economic question as well, because I was talking to one of my colleagues, Tony Pua, and we're coming up with some sort of a health and economic opening up plan for us to show some thoughts that are maybe not on the table right now. And one of the things that he proposed is that we need to come up with some guidelines on how to allow people to travel abroad, right? So it may be even for tourism. It may not even be for work.
I see.
If let's say I want to travel to a place that's relatively safe with low number of cases, like our most important border right now is Singapore.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So why not allow us to travel to Singapore? Because this is we need to have some consent of Singapore government.
Yeah.
Let's say we are fully vaccinated.
Yeah, I think the big problem is getting Singapore to agree to let the filthy heathens from up above to come to their country.
Okay, no, so this can only happen when the number of cases that we have fall, right?
Yeah.
But you see, what a lot of people may not realize is that the act of you going out to travel overseas is not just allowing you to make a living, but allowing the people that are part of that ecosystem to continue making their living, right? So if you are going to go abroad, you may take a taxi or Grab to the airport. And the airport, you will buy things, and then you buy the ticket, for Air Asia or for whatever airline. That will allow the stewards and the stewardesses and the pilot to, go back to their regular routine, right? And then, it's not just you alone; it's part of the larger ecosystem.
Yep.
And in fact, I recently made the recommendation to the Minister of Finance in a discussion we're having. Look, even if let's say we were to have a situation where there is non-reciprocal arrangements in terms of opening up the border with Singapore,
okay,
we should be prepared to accept it. And this is what I mean by non-reciprocal.
Okay.
So, for example, we let Singaporeans who are who are fully vaccinated, come into Malaysia without quarantine.
Okay.
Because they have low number of cases, right? To do tourism or whatever lah. And if they want to, when they want to go back, then it's Singapore government's decision what they want to do, right? Maybe do a test, you quarantine at home for a couple of days, and then you can go out and about, right? But if let's say Malaysians, because we have a high number of cases, were to go to Singapore, and we have to let's say quarantine for 1 week or maybe 3 days, while waiting for the test, it's non-reciprocal.
Okay.
We should allow that. Why? Because this will help the Malaysian economy, right? Because Singapore come here, they will spend, they will help the tourism sector, right? And it will be good for both sides lah. Singaporeans that have been trapped in their island, they can come and let their hair down lah, And then this is a win-win situation.
But okay, and I get it, and I'm asking as a layperson, but won't this again make us look like Singapore's bitch, if I may?
No, that's why I think we need to go away from thinking in terms of these very nationalistic kind of positions.
Yes, I agree.
It's like wow, they are bullying us, blah blah blah. Ayo, come on lah, your hotels are dying and all that. I think the first person who want to agree to this is the MD of Johor, right? Because he's been clamoring for the opening up of borders, right? So this is something that I think needs to be done on not just economic grounds. There may be humanitarian grounds as well. Some people have been away from their families on either side of the border for over a year, right?
I think that I get what you mean. So can this be like a charm offensive lah? Like we are the more welcoming neighbor.
I don't really think that we want to go that far. But it's like, look, we recognize the fact that we have more cases than you right now. And just let's try to find a suitable arrangement for everyone, lah.
Okay.
But actually, let me just also say that there is a bit of a silver lining behind the high number of cases that are in the country right now. Although of course we prefer this not to have happened, but the fact that we are at this stage where we have 10,000, 11,000 cases, 95% and above which are not serious, case 1 and 2. It also should allow us to be in a situation whereby we should be comfortable with this being endemic, right?
Yep.
Many people have heard this before. And if let's say we continue in a situation for, let's say, the fourth quarter with 1,000, 2,000 cases a day that are non-serious mostly, we should be okay with that, right? We shouldn't be in a situation like Singapore. Suddenly got one KTV cluster, you have to go and shut down the restaurants, right? We can do some targeted kind of lockdowns. We can do this more aggressive testing, capacities that we hopefully will have built up by that time. Testing and tracing, so that actually allows us to open up faster and to continue to stay open faster compared to some of our neighbors. And that's something I'm cautiously optimistic about.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, like, because we need to shift our mindset into thinking that okay, let's say that 15,000 cases, but if the deaths are like, one death is too,
5,
one death is of course one too many, but in the grand scheme of things, if it's just one person or two persons, then we know that, hey, we are not that bad, which is why again I like Singapore's approach: test, trace, vaccinate. We don't have to panic when there's a sudden surge of cases. But then again, of course, they didn't do that. They also kind of went a bit how to say, they went a bit hard on the
I think they overreacted
yeah in a way and okay, so I would like, you're of course a politician, so I just want to ask some political questions. Okay, the first one is, I believe Parliament is going to reopen soon. What does this mean?
Touch wood.
Touch wood. Okay. So Parliament's going to reopen. Parliament's going to reopen.
At least you touch your head. I thought you were going to touch your mic or whatever.
No, it's from an old friend. Touch wood. Okay. Anyway, so Parliament is going to reopen soon. What does this mean? And can we expect anything significant to happen?
Sorry. Yeah. It's been so long, it's like, it's been wondering when the hell, can go back to my quote-unquote formal workplace, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit strange,
It must be a bit weird when you can't perform, you can't go to your workplace when your workplace is in your title, like Member of Parliament, and you can't go to you're just a member.
Yeah, and like everyone is vaccinated.
Yeah. Come on, man. Yeah,
so Parliament is opening next Monday. The schedule is as such. As far as I know, it may change. Who knows? But tentatively, Monday is going to be the first day of the session this year. It's an emergency session, so there's the King won't go and open the session. What the emergency session implies is that it's something that's called by the Prime Minister, without the normal 14-day notice. To the MPs, so there's not going to be any question and answer session. We can't submit questions for the ministers to answer. So the Prime Minister is going to address the MPs on Monday. The Speaker may say something, and then as far as I understand, Tuesday, our Minister of Health is going to present his report. I'm sure that will be quite fun. And then Wednesday, I believe that is KG's time to present. That would, I think, be quite good news in terms of Operation Surge Capacity, hopefully.
Okay.
Touch wood. Right. And then Thursday, the Minister of Finance will also present some of the measures, including the National Recovery Program.
Where are the laptops, YB?
Oh, that one out of my jurisdiction. Okay, then the following week, 2nd of August, there will be some sort of debate, but without a vote apparently, on the declaration of the emergency. So I think there's still some fireworks to be had. There's certain things that I think my colleagues want to bring up in Parliament from a procedural standpoint, which I think is necessary so that we don't set bad precedents. And then of course, many people will be able to see the performance of the various ministers, because I think the interest in what's going on in Parliament, what will happen in Parliament next week, will be much higher than normal, right? Because many people want to see what the hell has been going on since Parliament closed last year, rather this year.
So, but there's no voting, so it's like there may be fireworks, but no one's gonna get burnt, lah, right?
Yeah,
just
no one. Well, some people may get burned. I'm sure the Minister of Health will get burned. Yeah, but he may not realize that he's getting burned. But as far as I know, no voting at this point in time. I don't think the Speaker would allow any motion to be voted on.
Will we be hearing from YB Zuraida on how many buildings she has sanitized and how many roads that she has sanitized?
No. We won't. We also won't be hearing from the Minister of Education in terms of his plans on how to open up schools safely on the 1st of September. So yeah, I mean, we wait and see what will happen. Yeah.
And another political issue which cropped up, I think, I don't know, today or late last night. Syed Saddiq has just been charged in court for, I think, corruption and CBT and anti money laundering act or whatever. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, everyone on Twitter, most on Twitter are saying that it's just politically motivated. What are your thoughts?
Of course, I don't know the evidence, but from what I see, the cases against Lim Guan Eng, for example, I can see that is something that is clear to the rakyat, that it's not based on any convincing kind of evidence. Why dig up a case that's even before he was the Minister of Finance 8 years or 9 years ago? So I think as for Syed Saddiq, many people would sympathize with him, myself included. And I think he's somebody who could have easily avoided all these charges if he had just agreed to support the government of the day, right? Gone back to Bersatu, for example, right? But he's a man of principle, and he's really, regardless of what you say about him, whatever criticisms that many of the netizens out there have, I think many of them are fair. I think he's a man of principle, and also an inspiration to many in this country, especially the younger generation.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping justice and truth prevails, lah.
Well, yes, we hope. Yes.
Okay. As always, YB, I'm going to take some questions from the viewers watching. By the way, thank you so much, everyone, for taking your Thursday. I forgot the date. I thought today's Friday. Taking your Thursday off. We have about 1,000 people tuning in. Thank you very much to everyone who are tuning in. Some of the questions that are asked have already been answered by YB early on. So once this session is done, you can view and play back in the beginning. He has answered most of the questions. But anyway, thanks for the questions. Let's just see. Let me see. Okay. Continuous high number of daily cases is making people lose hope. More and more people are dying. Do we have any solution for this? And what are the actions that can be taken apart from vaccination? Your thoughts, YB?
Okay, so I think the government is moving away from the total number of cases, because this one, if we go by the total number of cases, we may not be able to open up the economy for another month or so. So look at the number of serious cases, look at the number of deaths, and with the increase in vaccination, and like I said, we will probably reach about 40% of the Klang Valley fully vaccinated by the end of next week. I do believe that August we would see the drop line, the number of serious cases and a number of deaths, and hopefully, touch wood, the total number of cases as well, right? So don't lose hope. And I think it's important. What else can we do? Please continue to wear your mask, double mask, physical distancing, even after you've been vaccinated, right? You still can get COVID, right? And you want to be responsible. You don't be like the United States, where suddenly, you get vaccinated, double vaccinated, all masks are off. I think we still need to practice prudent behavior so that we can control the number of positive cases.
I mean, you bring up America, and that's so fascinating, because they were in the shithole in the very beginning of the pandemic, and then they ramp up their vaccination so fast. And like, if you watch some events, I watch like the UFC, they are doing it in stadiums now, and when they pan to the crowd, YB, they pan to the crowd, right? everyone is not wearing a mask. No, it's not like pockets of people not wearing. Everybody is not wearing masks. It's so insane. Surely there's gonna be
I just watched the NBA finals, Milwaukee Bucks and Phoenix Suns on YouTube, the highlights. You have 20 over 1,000 people in the stadium, you have 60 over 1,000 people outside. So I think that one we're probably not at the stage where we can do that.
But are they in a manner of speaking, are they adopting the whole don't care about the daily number of cases as long as people, are they adopting that, or are they just woohoo freedom? What do you think?
I think probably a bit of both. and to be fair, for a country that has they have about 300 million people, right? The number of daily cases they have, the last I checked, is maybe about 30,000, right? So it's not really that big in the relative. It's like 0.1%
of the.
And the number of deaths are also quite low I think it's a risk that they are willing to take to let the economy open up.
Yeah, so, and when they open up, they don't mess around. They just open up cow, and
also I think the percentage of adult population there that are not willing to get vaccinated for different reasons I think it's probably higher than what Malaysia would get at the end of our vaccination process. Yeah, because silver lining, the high number of cases actually make people more scared, right? So I'm not sure. Did you still have many friends who say I'm not going to take the vaccine because this is X, Y, and Z and all that? Do you see the number going down?
I will be proud to say that I think all my friends are either vaxxed or getting vaxxed. Even the most stubborn ones have come about. I'll tell you a quick story about one of my friends. Okay, I won't say his name. I don't want to embarrass him, but he's one of my jiu-jitsu teammates, and he was one of the most. In the group, he was the most hesitant. Let's just say, he will ask, but he asks questions. Then I answer. He asks questions. I answer. It doesn't work. Then I show him evidence that it works, whatever, and everything. And we had this ongoing dialogue. At the end, when the first AstraZeneca rollout happened, in the whole group, he was the fastest. He applied for the earliest date possible, and at least he still has his doubts, but he still gets vaccinated, and he doesn't tell people to not get vaccinated. And when I say how proud I am of him, he goes, "Yeah, I took the vaccine just in case it works."
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, never mind. But who knows? If it works, I don't want to lose out. So I like that. And at this point in time, whatever victory I can take, I'll just take it, Okay.
Right.
Mala Selvaraju has a really funny comment here. She says, OKM is really cool. His body language is so chill. I think he's chill because he's tired. He has had a long day. Okay. Let me see if there are any other questions here.
But actually on that note, a lot of people ask me, hey, heavy burden, this and that. Actually, I'm not really that stressed, because I think it's a good responsibility to have.
Yeah.
And then secondly, this is one thing that maybe a lot of my colleagues in the opposition don't realize. The number of people who are working together as a unit to make this work is actually a lot. And they work well together. Yes, there are some hiccups along the way. Yes, there's this empty, strange stuff along the way. But by and large, they've worked pretty well and coordinated well as a team.
Yeah.
So, I feel that the country, in terms of the vaccination process, we are in good hands. So, so don't, even though the numbers are still high, don't lose hope. Light is at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an incoming train.
not an incoming train. Okay. We'll just take a few last questions here. From Dominic Hua on YouTube. Hi YB. When will the national vaccination program be open to individuals from 13 years old and above, the children, and when do you think is the right time?
I think they've just reported that they've not allowed those who are below 18 to get vaccinated for now. So it could be because of the blood clot issue and whatnot. So I think the science still needs to be understood better. Probably needs to be discussed a bit more. Although I do take note that in Singapore they've already started allowing those in secondary school to get vaccinated.
I see.
Right. So my hope is that we can again use a science-based approach And given the fact that we procured vaccines, for 120% of the population, there is enough vaccines when the supply, comes in from Pfizer, mostly, to be able to vaccinate even those who are below the age of 18.
This is okay. This is a pretty interesting question. I know the answer will be elaborate. So I think Cal has asked on YouTube, why do we wait until Monday to start ops surge capacity? Why not today?
Well, because you have this thing called planning. Yeah, we have to ramp up the number of vaccines in the Klang Valley from about slightly over 200,000 to about 300,000, right? So these kind of things don't happen overnight. There's a lot of coordination efforts that needs to take place, and a lot of decisions that needs to happen. But the fact that it was announced last Friday, we've already ramped up the number of vaccines after vaccination after Raya, Haji, and then now we just have a bit more to go, a couple of days to go to prepare the venues and whatnot. So yeah, I mean the process takes a little bit of time, but we're getting there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I personally, when I interviewed Professor Gauss, and he mentioned the ramping up, and I was really very impressed. So I celebrate every small victory we have. We're gonna end on this comment, okay? Then your final words, okay? Someone mentioned. Okay, let me find the comment. It's a nice comment. Let me see. Okay, I can't find it, but someone essentially said, "Hey, YB, please take care of yourself. Don't get overburdened with work." And I'm like, YB Ong Kian Ming is one of the fittest persons I know. He is taking care of himself and more. Okay.
Maybe not getting enough sleep lah.
Yes, that is an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
There we go. I found it. Kate, please continue to look after yourself. That is the best hope. All the best to you. Okay, very nice. What are your final messages to everyone out there? Once again, I'm very happy to say we have about 1,000 people watching. Thank you so much for spending your Thursday night with me. And YB Ong Kian Ming, your final thoughts, sir?
Look forward to the small victories that we're going to have, and also the small opening up of the economy that we're going to have. Remember the people who have done a good job, especially our frontliners and those involved in the vaccination process. And then also continue to keep accountable those who are in power and those who have access to power. So this means all the politicians. Of course, those who are in power, more is asked of them. Those who, even though not in power, there may be less asked of them, but they still have to show that they can exercise what power they have in a responsible way. And that means more power to everyone. Okay, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, YB. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.